What's going on, guys? This is Foresight Capital, and today I wanted to give a quick update on the Palantir trade. So yesterday I made a video saying that I thought Palantir might spike on Monday, and we ultimately didn't see that price action play out because Palantir closed relatively flatly at about $27.24 per share, which was up just 4 cents on the day. And in aftermarket hours, we gave back those small gains to now be trading at $27.10 per share. So in yesterday's video, I actually recreated the entire chart, and most of the price points stayed the same, but what actually changed was the tightening of this wedge that we've been trading within. So previously, the wedge was actually due to close out somewhere around the late evening on Tuesday or early morning trading hours on Wednesday. After redrawing a line that was more representative of the actual trend, I believe that the wedge was ultimately going to close today or early morning on Tuesday. So we should see some relatively high price volatility over the coming hours, be that high or low. And we did see a bit of a spike this morning, and I kind of wanted to cover that in today's video. So early morning, pre-market hours, 4 a.m. through about 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States, we saw Palantir's price spike above the $27.70 semi-long-term resistance that we've been trading against for the past week and a half or so. It's been used as resistance as far back as December 7th, so about a week ago, and then support, and then multiple times as resistance while we've been trading in the wedge that we've been following for the past week. We saw the price spike above this level for 4 hours, and then when the market opened, the bulls sort of gave up and the price faded back down. Now, there's two ways that you can really view that as a trader. One is that it could be a bullish setup because it means that the bulls are ultimately buying and willing to push us above this long-term resistance line. Also, due to the hours of trading, it could mean that the institutions, the hedge funds, and the other large investors that are buying very heavily in the pre-market hours are the ones that are pushing the price up. And then once they've made their buys, the retail traders, which are obviously trading with much smaller sums of money, just weren't as enthusiastic about buying, and the price faded into the afternoon. So we could start seeing some pumps if it is institutional investors in the price, because that tends to tell us that with high volume in the morning and buying action, that it's probably institutional investors. The bear case for this, though, is that the retail traders aren't enthusiastic and they sort of gave up once the market opened. This 9 o'clock candle closed right on the long-term support line, and then in the market open hours, we saw the price close below that line and ultimately trend right back to this long-term support line that we've drawn and sit on the 50-period moving average. So both of these are bullish setups as long as we don't have candles open and close below this long-term support line. But it could be viewed as a little bit bearish that the retail traders may have just given up on the overall price action. Now, there's no real indicator that this was definitely institutions buying. It could have just been large whales trading around the stock in pre-market hours. But typically when you see that sort of price action, it means that it was ultimately the institutions and retail traders giving up. So this wedge is due to close around the same time in the morning on Tuesday at about 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time before the market hours open. This could be a bullish setup again because if institutions come in and push the price up above this long-term resistance line and the price opens above the long-term resistance, we could ultimately see the stock continue higher because that would be 2 consecutive days of opening above the resistance line. However, if we don't see any major buying or see the price dip below this long-term resistance line, that's when we have to start wondering, is the stock going to start fading back down to this 2460 or 2260 level? In fact, I have received a couple of emails and comments saying that people don't believe that I own enough Palantir to be talking about it this much. So I actually had another order filled and after market hours today of another 200 shares of $27.16 per share, just to put a little bit more of my money where my mouth is there. And then what I also wanted to talk about today was the stock lockup. So there's been a lot of questions and concerns in the comments about when the lockup period is ultimately going to end and the market could be flooded with shares. So I went ahead and pulled up a CNBC article here, which is basically stating that Palantir has indicated that the lockup period expires after it reports results for the year ending December 31st. So the quarter and the fiscal year will end December 31st, but Palantir is not going to report earnings for probably until the end of January to the beginning of February. And then I believe it was a LinkedIn article that I found said that it's going to be 3 trading days after the quarterly earning report is released. So I've had a lot of people in the comments saying, watch out for December 31st. It's 2 weeks away. There's going to be a huge sell-off in the stock. And that's just not going to be the case. There could likely be a sell-off when the actual lockup ends, but it's not due to happen on December 31st or even the next day. It's due to happen after earnings are released. And then there's realistically 2 ways that could ultimately go. And I hate to play both sides of the fence here, but again, if I knew which way Palantir was going consistently, I wouldn't make videos. I'd probably just trade hour to hour. So Palantir has gone from $8.90 per share all the way up to $27 per share. If today were the end of the lockup day, people would be up about 300% on their shares. That could lead to a lot of people looking to potentially take profits, but there's 2 ways to think about that. Either people are going to take a very large portion of their profits, get out if they think that the stock isn't going to go higher, or they'll hold on to the stock if they think that it's going to go higher and take maybe a portion of their profits, because you have to think the people that were given very large portions of shares, either through profit sharing or employee stock purchase plans or whatever they've had in the past, they've got very substantial gains. So there's tax considerations to dumping all of the shares at once. There's also considerations of whether or not they need all of the money at once, because they've already tripled their money basically from IPO, and their cost basis may actually be substantially less than $8.90 per share. So they may not have to sell a considerable number of shares in order to receive a considerable amount of money. Now, all of this is speculation, but just different ways to think of the lockup period. There are going to be 80% of the overall shares of Palantir hitting the market when the lockup expires, or having the potential to hit the market, but that doesn't mean that they'll all be sold for one reason or another, whether people just don't need the money, whether they don't want to take it all at once and have a huge tax bill, or whether they think the stock is going to continue appreciating. So how the stock trades into this particular date, which is as of yet, as far as I know, undefined, will ultimately determine how likely we are to see a major sell-off. If the stock is trading at all-time highs and it reaches 50 by the end of the year, or 50 by January, whenever the lockup period is, I could see people ultimately deciding to take profits. I could realistically see them deciding to take profits at 30, but especially if we get overextended heading into the end of the lockup. Now, if we head into the lockup and the stock has sold off, if we break this long-term trend and we head back down to the yellow, green, or even orange support line of $18 per share, there may not actually be that much of a sell-off. Don't get it wrong, there's definitely going to be shares that hit the market. There's always going to be people who are looking to cash out on some money whenever you have an IPO lockup period end like this. But it's not going to be, I don't think, as detrimental as people think. We'll definitely have to reevaluate as we get closer, but I just kind of wanted to tackle the date first and foremost, because I've received some email questions and some comments in the videos about what I think is going to happen on December 31st. And I don't think we have to be worrying about that at this point. I think the most important thing that we can worry about currently with the trade is the wedge that we're trading in, if you believe in the hourly candlestick chart or in technical analysis at all, though I believe if you're still watching the video, you probably do. If you want to look at the daily chart, we're still sitting right along the long-term trend, and sort of the same pattern here. If we break below that, we're realistically going to head back down. However, we've got maybe an even more bullish setup there because we're even trading above the 9-period moving average and have used it as support for the past couple of candles. So realistically, we've got a bullish setup both directions. But let me know down in the comments which way you think that Palantir is going to trade tomorrow. Does the wedge even matter? Are we going to continue consolidating, or are we going to spike in price or fall? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Again, if this video brought you some value, don't forget to subscribe, like the video. Thanks for stopping by and watching till the end, and I'll catch you in the next one.